On this edition of Independent Sources, Minding What You Eat, our special look at the U.S.'s battle with the bulge. Can Congress do more to change the country's diet, or is it up to consumers in their kitchens? The details coming up. Welcome to Independent Sources, bringing you news from New York's ethnic and immigrant communities. I'm Abi Ishola. When a panel of top nutrition experts advised the government at the end of last year that eggs and coffee were in and sugar and meat were out, it was yet another salvo in this country's fight with food. Many of these same experts seem to go back and forth on what's good for consumers to eat. What has remained constant are concerns about the country's rates of high blood pressure, diabetes, and childhood obesity, especially in communities of color. So as food lobbyists stew and consumers chew on these facts and figures, we tried to find out if more can be done on the governmental level to make changes to what we eat. Gary Pierre-Pierre sat down with Professor Fred Kaufman, the author of the book Bet the Farm, How Food Stopped Being Food, and Vicki Radin, the CEO of Control Environment Agriculture for Five Stone Green Capital, a sustainable real estate investment fund.
So Fred, what do you think about the notion that we need more legislation to regulate what we Americans eat?
Look, Gary, Washington policy and policymakers have been involved in our food decisions really since the very beginning. I mean, that's part of the strength, the traditional and historical strength of American agriculture has been the government getting involved in ag schools, getting involved in supporting farmers. So on a certain level, this is nothing new. So when people are screaming and yelling about regulation, stop regulating me, it's a false problem. I mean, when they're being regulated in the positive way, they had no problem with that.
So is this a double-edged sword, do you think, Vicki?
I think it is a double-edged sword. I mean, we talk about the government doing regulation, but is it really the government or is it big business? I mean, the food companies spend tens of millions of dollars every year on lobbying the various individuals in these committees, okay? And so we see change coming out that is to their benefit. So I'm not really so sure that we really see as much government regulation as we do business regulation of how we eat and what we eat.
Is the food lobbying, various food lobbying from tobacco to sugar and go on, are they wielding too much influence in the process?
I don't think there's any question. I mean, Vicki just makes the point, which is that there's so much money. These places have very deep pockets. I mean, if you just look at what happened with the sale of Monsanto to Bayer just today for $62 billion, right? And what their gross profit each year is like $64 billion. And Syngenta, the big Swiss seed maker, is just bought by basically the Chinese government. I mean, we are talking about banks that are too big to fail. How about agricultural companies that are too big to fail? And the risk involved when agricultural companies fail is beyond anything we've seen in terms of banking failure. I mean, we're talking about global food supply.
So now basically, who would take the lead on this? Who should take the lead in regulating what we eat? Because it seems that the food industry is taking it over. So who is defending our interests as consumers?
Well, you know, FDA was originally set up to provide safety. They weren't set up to say whether or not we should eat A or eat B. They were set up to say, this is safe for you to eat. These drugs are safe for you to take. USDA is sitting in an awkward position because they have two goals. One is to support and promote the various food industries, and two is to kind of come up with a policy around what those industries should be doing. It's opposed to each other, so they're in conflict to begin with. So to say that's kind of like putting the fox in the hen house and saying he's going to come out and not eat any of the chickens. It's just not going to happen.
But I think that's another argument for why we're seeing a more local movement and a more social movement starting at a community level of demand for different kinds of labeling, different kinds of protocols for their food. And so that's why we're seeing, for instance, Bloomberg, who came under all that pressure,
with the sugar,
in 2012 for being,
right,
the nanny state. Now all of a sudden people are saying, wait a second, this actually could work. This could be a way forward. We can follow this.
I know in Canada, for instance, the government there regulates what restaurants can put in food. And the food is a much better. Do you think something like that can't happen in this country.
You know, I think that would be a little bit difficult, but I think what we can have is a lot more transparency. So for here, I think the issue becomes a matter of knowing what's going on, knowing what's in the food so that you can make a decision. If you choose to make a decision to eat one way or the other, if you choose to make the decision, as we've seen with the calorie labeling in fast food restaurants, their business did not fall through the floor just because something said it was going to be 5,000 calories. People make that choice. But I do believe that we do owe the population the opportunity to make that choice. We owe the opportunity to know whether there's GMO product in that food, to know whether there's added sugar, which is what's coming up on the new labeling now, to know whether that's in the food so that folks can make the choice that they want about what they choose to eat and what they don't choose to eat. But, you know, to some degree, some regulation would not be a bad thing. I mean, 1/3 of the people in this country are now considered overweight or obese.
We're going to pay that price anyway on their side. I mean, diabetes, people say that these food taxes and these sugar taxes are regressive. That's Bernie Sanders' big point right now. And that's why he and Hillary are pretty much disagreeing, whereas Hillary is coming out in favor of the food tax. And Bernie's saying it's regressive. It's going to hit poor people. It's going to hit people who are drinking that soda and those Coca-Colas. And you know what's regressive? Diabetes is regressive. I mean, if you look who are the victims and how much this is going to cost.
It's usually poor people who are victims of high blood pressure.
These are complicated questions. There's not like a silver bullet. There's not one simple solution. And so that's why local communities, government, industry, it's a complicated system, right?
But I go back. I mean, aren't consumer advocate groups out there taking the lead on this?
I think that you're seeing a lot more of that. You're seeing a whole movement around urban farming, for example, where individuals are saying, you know what, I want to have choice and I really want to know what's in it, and I don't want to have to trust somebody else to tell me what's in my food. If I'm growing my food, if I'm participating with some kind of a CSA program, if I'm buying from a local farmer's market.
What's a CSA?
CSA is where you have farmers groups, and they actually, depending on the season, put a box of food together, and you actually kind of buy into a regular box that you'll get every week of whatever's coming into harvest.
It's a food co-op. It's a food co-op. Yeah, and there is no doubt that we're seeing that movement. We've been seeing that for about 25 years. And I think on the one level, I think as Vicki points out, we have a real issue which people don't want to talk about in this country, which is food insecurity. And that means Americans who are not getting enough to eat and who are not getting their nutrition on a regular basis. And also, as we were talking about even before the show, this whole notion of the end of food from nowhere. It's a problem that so many people don't know where their food is coming from, what is in their food. And you know who understands that problem more than anybody else is actually the military and the CIA. They understand that that kind of supply chain that can be disrupted so very easily is a national security problem. And so we have these local ideas for food source that actually are helping on every single level.
But good point, Fred, but I'd like you to pick up on that, Vicki. Americans want strawberries year-round. How much do our sort of like entitlement is creating this problem for the government?
You know, I mean, 50% of the produce that we bring into this country now, because we do not eat seasonally, is coming from someplace off the shores of the U.S., okay? We have kind of gotten to a point where we don't eat seasonally. That is a problem. But I think what you're going to start to see, and as we've seen with the local food movement, as we've seen with organics, I mean, you know, 10 years ago, we were talking about $1 million business for organics, and now we're looking at a $27 million, or $27 billion business. Local is almost getting ready to outpace organic. I think people are coming back around to saying, you know what, if I really want to eat better, I've got to eat what's available to me. The taste of food is gone. You know, when you're growing all of these things out of season and shipping them from Spain, Portugal, Canada, Australia, South America, you're not getting the same kind of quality with that product. We're beginning to see a shift in the marketplace, particularly in what is being demanded at some of the higher ends. But I think that we have to step back for a minute, because the issue of food security with over 1 billion people being hungry has got to be addressed. We have to address that our habits on how we grow food, how we process food, is causing extreme issues in terms of sustainability and climate change. We can't continue on the path that we're going, whether we want to or not.
So what do we do?
Well, I think there are two sides to it. And I think a lot of it has to do with the price of food. On the one level, a lot of our food is not expensive enough. I think if you want to eat those strawberries year-round, you really should have to pay a premium for those strawberries, just for those food miles. At the same time, I think that there's a real responsibility, and it's absolutely shameful that there are 1 billion hungry people on this planet, and that there are so many people suffering from obesity and type 2 diabetes because of poor diet choices. And so government, industry, everybody also has another responsibility to make sure that there is enough good food which is affordable and healthy, that people learn how to cook, people know where the food is from, that there's labeling. So once again, you need both sides of that equation, because part of loving food and understanding food is high-end food consumption. I mean, high-end chefs, high-end restaurants, those people who are eating there and who are paying for food and who are loving food can also be a real part of the solution.
I think that they can, but I know when I look at it, I look at the communities where there are really serious issues of food insecurity. There isn't a county in the U.S. that doesn't have a food insecurity issue, even from the wealthiest counties. Not even Venice County, not even. Loudoun County only has a 4% rate, but they still have 283,000 people that are food insecure.
And this is partially why we need soda tax. You have a soda tax, and then all of a sudden, if you look at the places that have it, you get $1 million, you get $1.2 million in revenue, and you can start using that for school programs, you can start using that for cooking programs.
It goes
right back into the community. That's the hope. Look,
that's the hope. We have never seen that happen.
But we have to go from hope, Vicki. I mean, what else are we going to work on?
You know, what I'd like to
keep hope alive. Keep hope. Remember
yes,
Jesse? We got to keep hope alive.
But that's pushing hope a little bit far. I think what we really have to sit down and look at, they've got to be alternatives in terms of local food production. We have technology now that allows us to grow food indoors, all year round. That's one aspect of it. We've seen that, particularly here in New York, has done an outstanding job of looking at urban agriculture from a different perspective. It's not going to turn around and change the fact that we still get our food mostly from other places, but we can make a bigger dent in it, particularly for things that are really healthy for local communities. We look at organizations like Harlem Grown, who's done an excellent job of teaching. We took food out of the classroom. You know, I remember when I was in school, I had cooking, okay? We have so many children coming up now that don't even know what vegetables are, what to do with them. You know, there's a long chain of activity that has to take place to make significant change. We have great organizations out there that are working to improve food knowledge. So I think that's one of the first steps. If you're going to give folks the chance to make a decision, then they need to know what they're making a decision about.
Sure. We're almost out of time, but before we leave, I want to talk about First Lady Michelle Obama's initiative policy about, better eating habits for children and this whole campaign of obesity, fighting obesity. Where is she along the process? Has it been impactful? Have you guys seen any efforts at changing habits? Fred laughs.
Yeah, well,
I have, but you go ahead.
No. I'm not laughing at our First Lady, and I think that what she's done is it's been wonderful bringing attention to this and having the White House garden, and more power to her. But this is going to take a lot more than an example, and frankly, I think it's going to take a lot more than urban farming. It's going to take a lot more government regulation on the large scale, government intervention, taxing, labeling, trying to figure out how these very large multinationals can be brought to bear and brought to be responsible for what they're doing, how we can get Pepsi to pay for the damage that they are doing every day to our communities. These are large issues, and so Michelle is giving us a fabulous example, but it's just one shining light, and we have to find, we have to do better.
Well, her light has done a couple of things. It has not only shown a light on the issue, but she's also working with food manufacturers. So it's not just the things that she's doing in terms of the White House garden. It's the things that she's doing and working with a number of different companies that are packaged good companies.
Including Walmart.
Including Walmart.
Which is, once again, what we're looking at here is not non-controversial. And there are a lot of people in the food movement who are seeing Michelle's work as getting in bed with some of the bad players.
Well, here's the deal. You can't avoid companies that are main suppliers of food. What you can do is try to get to them to change their behaviors. You can't ignore them. So the best shot that we have is exactly what she's doing in attempting to change their behaviors so that it is more in line with what we need to have for our communities. It's a long push. No one single answer is going to work. You need more education. You need more sources of produce. You need a better understanding of food. You need education in the school systems. You need
You
government regulation.
also need to fight the power, Vicki. You also need to be able to say, you know what, we have to be able to stand up, we have to say, no, we're not going to accept that anymore.
That's true. You have to be able to stand up and fight the power, but you also have to realize that the profit motive is what's driving all of it. So what you need to do is get to the point where, let's face it, we have a cereal company that now has a gluten-free product. They didn't become a gluten-free cereal that's been around for the last 30 years because they wanted to. People were voting with their wallets. People were asking for choice. That makes a huge difference. You can see it on the shelves. You can see it in our labeling.
The affluent consumer and the demands of the affluent consumer are not going to lead the way to solving our global food problem or our national food problem. I really have to disagree with you there.
I appreciate that, but I didn't say that they would solve the problem because there is no one silver bullet to the problem. There's a number of different activities that you have to do to make sure that you get to the point where there is some resolution along the way, but it'll take time.
Well, unfortunately, this is a great conversation, but we're out of time.
Thank you, Gary. We're not going to solve it today.
Vicki Radden, Fred Kaufman, thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much.
It's been my pleasure.
When we come back on our special edition, Minding What You Eat, a pair of nutritionists talk to us about why counting calories is not always enough in the struggle to whittle your waistline. Before that, Crystal Lowe has some other news.
Thanks, Abby. Here's a look at some headlines from New York's ethnic and community media. El Diario La Prensa reports that immigrants, activists, and elected officials are raising their voices against Immigration and Customs Enforcement's announcement that they will be carrying out more raids and continue with its deportation policy. Stephen Choi, the director of the New York Immigration Coalition, says that ICE's tactics are keeping immigrant communities in constant fear of deportation and do nothing to resolve the broader issues of America's broken immigration system. Mayor Bill de Blasio has also expressed his outrage by reiterating his support of immigrant communities, saying that the city is closely monitoring the situation to ensure that all New Yorkers, regardless of immigration status, have access to city services with a sense of security and a peace of mind. From Voices of New York, Asian American actors are coming out in opposition of the practice of yellowface in theater. Yellowface is when white actors wear costumes or makeup to look Asian. The effort is being spurred by the Asian American Performance Action Coalition that was formed in 2011 to advocate for better representation of Asian performers in New York theater. The coalition announced a national initiative against yellowface and brownface at a forum called Beyond Orientalism on May 3rd. The coalition also released results at the forum that show that the number of Asian roles has tripled to 9% since 2011. Pun Bandhu, a steering committee member of the coalition, acknowledges the progress but believes that the industry still needs to improve the quality of roles available to Asian actors. And finally, Rabbi Shulam Korn has been named New York's Torah Truck King. The forward reports on Korn's journey in helping communities celebrate the sacred occasion of bringing in a new Torah. A long and meticulous process done by hand, it can take over a year to fully write the sacred text. The Torah's completion, often dedicated to an individual or community, is akin to other life cycle events such as a bar mitzvah or wedding. When a Torah has been inscribed, Korn ferries the sacred scroll from the scribe to the synagogue where it will be housed. This process usually involves a long drive or simply a slow parade down 1 or 2 blocks. When Korn first started his business, he and his brothers only held around 5 ceremonies a year. However, these days, business is booming, and now they host one almost every weekend. Those were just a few headlines from the city's ethnic and community media. Independent sources will be right back.
Thanks for staying tuned. Earlier in the show, we talked about the food industry's influence in Washington. In this next segment, we'll discuss our physical and psychological relationship with what we eat and how consumers can come out on the winning side of this food fight. In studio with me are registered nutritionist Natalie Rizzo and Lisa Siriano, who is also the founder and CEO of the Vegecation program that provides culinary education for public and private schools. Welcome, ladies.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for being here. So there's always all this talk about, of course, eating well, exercising, but it's easier for some people than it is for others. What are some of the physiological reasons or issues that make it easier for some and not for others?
I think that can be based on age, gender, genetic predisposition to certain diseases. And then, of course, there's other things outside of the physiological that are obstacles for people to eat healthy, but a lot of it is based on kind of your background and your family history.
Speaking of background and family history, there are communities of color that are disproportionately affected by diabetes, high blood pressure. What are the reasons for that?
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with access. We have an issue when you go to certain parts just here in the city, you find, you can't even get yourself a healthy lunch, that it's mostly fast food and a lot of foods that are fried or very, calorie-laden foods. So access is a big part of it, and having healthier options in all communities is something that there's a lot of groups that are working towards. Having access to farmers markets and green carts, things like that have made a difference, but the history of having food deserts has really impacted the culture of a lot of communities, and I think that culture is a big part of how people eat.
Yeah, you say food deserts. I know some people don't really like the term and some people use it. How do you feel about that term?
I feel like it's, some people don't understand what it means, but I do, having witnessed it firsthand and, walked through a lot of different communities and been in so many different parts of the city and seeing how affected they are, and even just trying to find, myself something to eat sometimes. I think it's a fair term in some regards, for sure.
Okay. You mentioned other factors beyond the physical. What did you mean by that?
I think cultural, like she was talking about, where you live. And then also I think sometimes having the education about nutrition is not always there. I know when I was a kid, I wasn't taught about nutrition education in schools. It's becoming much more prevalent with programs like Vegucation now, but those aren't in all schools all across the U.S. So people aren't always learning about healthy foods from a young age, and they have their parents not necessarily eating the healthiest foods because they don't have access to them. So a lot of times it's the education and the access that is not always there for healthy eating.
And I think unfortunately, a lot of the education comes from the food companies, which you mentioned in the beginning, that they want to sell you your product. And I always tell kids that I'm working with that the food companies don't really care about you, and they don't care about their health, they care about their pocket. And they're the ones that are doing a lot of the education, trying to make it seem like their product is so healthy or something that you absolutely have to be healthy, when that's not really the case.
There are a lot of specific diets, like there are blood type diets, there are diets for people who have hormonal issues. Do you ladies feel that we should be tailoring our diets more to our personal needs, more so than following the next, popular diet?
The blood type diet's really interesting. It has some good research that backs it up. I think it can be restrictive for some people if, for example, I'm a B blood type and I'm a vegetarian, and according to the blood type diet, I should not be eating lentils and beans and I should be eating mostly meat. So that's just something that's not going to happen for me. So it's really would be difficult for me to follow my proper blood type diet. I don't think that has made me unhealthy because I don't eat meat. Quite the opposite, in my opinion. So I think that people can get a little bit too hung into things. It's really mostly about eating whole foods, not eating foods that are processed, eating a lot of healthy fats, knowing where your food is coming from is a big part of how to eat well.
Yeah, I completely agree with what she was just saying. You get kind of jumbled information in there because there's so many different types of diets out there. People get very confused. But when it comes down to it, it's the fruits, it's the vegetables, the whole grains, the lean proteins, the low-fat dairies. Those things are still good for everyone. And if we all kind of adopted a diet that had those things in them, that would just be the basic healthy diet that everyone should follow. And then from there, maybe you can build on it based on certain dietary restrictions or medical conditions that you have. But if you stick to the whole foods with the fruits and the vegetables, you're going to be building a very good foundation there.
Yeah. Speaking of whole foods, there's this thing where they say avoid the middle aisles in the grocery store. How do you ladies feel about that? Is that true? Is that a good technique to?
Absolutely true. Just from marketing and market studies, they understand that that's they put all of the sort of more whole foods on the outside, on the perimeter. And if you do stay with things like fruits and vegetables, and that's where you should be sort of hitting first and stocking up, and staying with your lean proteins and your whole dairy, then you're going to be a lot better off than a lot of the stuff that's in that center aisle where you find a lot of sweetened beverages and snacks and cookies and things like that that really aren't necessary parts of your diet.
Yeah. Well, when it comes to portion control, everyone's talking about portion control, but does portion control mean the same thing for everyone? How do you know if you're eating the right amount of food or if you're eating too much food?
I love, actually, the USDA has My Plate, which is their tool to teach people about portion control. And I always reference this to people because it's just a plate and it shows you exactly how much of the plate should be what type of foods. So for instance, half the plate should be fruits and vegetables, a quarter would be your whole grains, and then a quarter would be your lean protein. So if you think about it as your plate, that's kind of how to balance out a meal, and it could work for anyone. Maybe kids should have a smaller plate than adults, but it's easier than having to count calories and think about serving sizes. So it kind of can be universal if you think about just your plate in front of you.
I also try to give people the reference of the size of your palm should be the amount of protein that you have. The size of your fist is the amount of starch or grain, and then I would say, and all the vegetables, all the fruit. Can't get enough of those. And it's different for each body because maybe my palm is going to be a lot smaller than a man that's just has a larger physicality than I do. So it sort of gives me a good reference and would give anybody if they look at their own body.
So how do people fight through the idea of feeling like they're starving once they've, gotten to a place where they are controlling their portions? They may feel like this isn't really enough food for me. How do you get over that?
I really like to talk to people about the hunger scale and thinking, becoming in touch with your body, eating slowly because it takes your brain a little bit of time to catch up with your stomach and realize, oh, I have, so it's not scarfing down your food, giving your brain the chance to realize that I am full. And then the hunger scale is from 1 being sort of the hungriest you ever possibly could be, haven't eaten, in 2 days, and 10 I call Thanksgiving full. And, sort of finding yourself somewhere always between a 4 and an 8 so that you're never getting too hungry, because when you're too hungry, you don't make good choices, and you don't want to get yourself too full because then when you're taking on calories that you don't really need as energy.
And then there's the psychology behind eating, where some people eat because, they may be going through something. How do people combat that? How do you get to a place where you're not eating emotionally?
I think this is one of the hardest things to combat, and it's mindful eating is a term that has really kind of picked up speed recently. People try to think more about when they're eating and why they're eating. That's really the basics of it. And some people even keep a food journal when they eat, what their feeling is during that time of eating. If you're snacking at night, watching TV, if you write down why you're actually eating, you come to realize day after day that maybe you're eating for the wrong reasons. So it's really being mindful about it. It's hard to combat, but I think over time you can really kind of start to think more about it and you'll realize why you're eating.
Yeah, I agree. I think that mindful eating, thinking about where you are on the hunger scale is really important to start to overcome that emotional eating so that you realize, okay, well, I'm not really, maybe I'm 7 right now, so I don't really need to be sitting here and snacking on this.
Yeah, extra bar or something.
Exactly.
Okay.
Sometimes people just eat out of routine or out of boredom.
Yeah. Well, we have to wrap now, ladies. Thanks to Natalie Rizzo and Lisa Siriano for coming in this week, and to you for staying tuned to our special look at the food industry and consumers' complex relationship with food. Till next time, be independent-minded.